Hey there guys, this is Cole. Welcome back to another movie review. Today I'm reviewing a brand new movie that came out this year in 2026, which I briefly discussed it in my recent movie news video, which is currently uploading to YouTube at the moment, but this will be uploaded after, probably tomorrow. But anyways, today's movie I'm going to be reviewing is Backrooms from 2026, directed by Kane Parsons. Yeah, that movie. So, what is the plot to this movie, for those who don't know? Well, the plot of this movie is as follows. Directed by Kane Parsons, based on the viral 2019 creepypasta and 2022 web series on YouTube by the same name, The Backrooms follows Clark, a struggling alcoholic furniture store owner, after discovering a portal in his basement leading to an endless labyrinth dimension of yellow walls. When he vanishes inside, his therapist, Mary, ventures into the nightmare to save him. And this movie's it's mostly lesser known actors, but I do think that all the actors do a good job in the movie. But anyways, so how was this movie made? Well, like I said, Backrooms was a creepypasta created in 2019 on the website 4chan, and it was a very viral, very popular creepypasta. So then, in 2022, a 16-year-old guy by the name of Kane Parsons created a web series of YouTube. He created a web series on YouTube based on that creepypasta, and the web series was very viral. It was very popular, it was a very popular viral web series of found footage short films released on YouTube. And then it was announced in 2025 that Kane Parsons was going to be directing a movie based on the creepypasta and his own web series based on that. It was announced that in 2025 that Kane Parsons was going to direct a movie based on his own web series as well as the creepypasta, set to release in 2026. And when this movie was released on May 29th of 2026, the movie received positive reviews by critics and audiences, where critics praised the movie for its acting, its directing, and its atmosphere, but they criticized the story in certain moments for being confusing, which this movie does have confusing moments for sure. But as for my reaction to the movie, I thought that this was a pretty good horror movie. Now, it's not perfect. It does have some problems. It's not even my favorite horror movie that is released so far this year. I would personally say that, in my opinion, I personally thought that, I thought that movies like Obsession and Iron Lung, I thought that those two movies were better, but I still thought that this was a pretty good horror movie for what it was. And now I am going to review this movie. Now, I am going to describe some stuff that does happen in the movie, but I'm going to keep it as spoiler-free as I can, because I do encourage people who are interested in this movie to go check it out. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the review. So our movie starts off in the year 1990, where we are introduced to a guy who is holding a camera. So it's basically like a found footage section, where you basically have this guy in a hazmat suit holding a camera, where he's walking in this very creepy, backrooms, as the title of the movie suggests, where it's basically, he's walking in these yellow labyrinth dimension. He's walking in this endless labyrinth dimension of yellow walls. He's the guy holding the camera, we as the viewer get to see what he's seeing through the camera's perspective, and you can very much tell that the guy holding the camera is very scared, and he's basically saying, I'm here to contain this, something's not right. And I will say, the opening found footage scene at the beginning of this movie is actually scary. And now, for me, when it comes to found footage movies, it is a very hit or miss subgenre for me, but I thought that the found footage stuff. Now, granted, most of the movie does not rely on found footage. It's only certain sections, but the found footage sections that were used in the movie, I actually thought were rather scary. Like, for example, like I said, the movie starts in the year 1990, and the guy holding the camera, he is being chased by this creepy black creature, and he's running, holding the camera, running away from the creature. And again, it is a very well done, intense scene. And then we cut to a few years later in 1996, where we are introduced to our main character of the movie, Clark, who is played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, which I probably butchered that name, so I'm sorry if I butchered that actor's name, but I thought that the actor who played Clark was really good in the movie. Like, and granted, I thought that all the actors in the movie were good, but I personally thought that the main actor who played Clark, like, he was definitely the standout of the movie. And basically, our main character of the movie, Clark, he's basically an alcoholic he's an alcoholic who's struggling to not have alcohol. Like, he's trying his best not to have alcohol, and he basically is the store owner of a furniture store, and he even does TV commercials, promoting his store. Well, one night, he goes down into the basement, and he touches the wall, but he touches the wall as he feels compelled by it, but then he notices that his hand starts to go through the wall as if he's a ghost, even though the main character is not a ghost, but still, he walks through it, and like I said, he finds this really weird, endless labyrinth dimension of like these very, very, I don't know, like very eerie, I guess that's the best word to describe it, like these very eerie yellow walls and stuff like that. And so, and like he just gets the sense of dread that something's not right, and we as the viewer get the sense of dread that something's not right. So the next day, Clark, he basically decides to talk to his psychiatrist. He decides to talk to his therapist by the name of Mary, and he basically tells Mary that in his basement, he found this a wall. He was able to walk through the wall and find like these weird yellow back rooms and stuff like that. But of course, the therapist does not believe him. But Clark is determined to find proof that he is not insane, and he even says to Mary, "I will find a way to prove to you that I'm not insane." And so because of that, our main character, Clark, he decides to go to these two teenagers' house who have these two, I wouldn't really say they're teenagers. I would say they're more, now granted, the movie never exactly tells us how old these characters are that he talks to, but if I had to take a guess, I think they're like 19 or something like that. 18 or 19, around that age. But he basically asks if he can borrow their camera, and he basically has to lie to the characters because he knows for a fact that if he told them what they saw, they would think he's insane. But he says he needs to borrow the camera for research, and they go along with it. And at first, they think he's crazy, but then they see that Clark sticks his hand through the wall and he's able to walk through, and the two young adults are like, they're obviously shocked at, what they see, so they decide to go through the wall. And again, what I really like about this movie is the creepy atmosphere, and I really like the backrooms themselves. Like, you just get this eerie sense of dread that something doesn't belong there. And again, it seems like the backrooms never end, and that's what makes the backrooms so scary. And once again, when Clark is in the backrooms, and he's with these two guys trying to prove it, basically, the main guy holding the camera, who is with his sister, he basically, decides to, take a little look down, and yeah, what he sees is absolutely terrifying. And again, like I said, found footage is hit or miss for me, but I found, now granted, most of this movie is not a found footage movie, but the few found footage bits that were in this movie I thought were rather creepy and effective, and again, I just thought that it was really well done. And then because of this, we find out that our main character of the movie, Clark, he goes missing. So because of this, Mary, which is his therapist, decides to venture into the back rooms to basically save him. Well, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but let's just say later on in the movie, Mary, she finds out that there's a certain plot twist involving the character Clark, which I'm not going to spoil at all, but the plot twist I thought was insane. And again, I think this movie has some creepy visuals. You know, once again, I think that all the actors do a really good job. And again, this is a well-done movie. Now, but this movie's not perfect. It does have some flaws. Like, now, in terms of, again, like I said, I think that the directing, I think that the atmosphere, and I think that all the actors are really good in the movie. But in terms of some negatives, I do think that the movie, it is paced well for the most part, but there are some parts where it is a little slow. I also think that most of the special effects are good, but there is a scene involved. There is a CGI jump scare in one scene that I wasn't too keen on. And my final negative is that the ending of the movie, which again, I am not going to spoil how this movie ends, but I thought that now granted, the ending was creepy, do not get me wrong, but at the same time, it was a very confusing ending that did not make any sense. But at the end of the day, I thought that this was a pretty good horror movie for what it was. I would definitely recommend going out to support this. And on a scale of 1, and this is a movie that, you know, hey, I liked this movie, and, you know, honestly, I actually would be on board to see a sequel to this movie. But yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Backrooms 2026. I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. So yeah, that was my review on Backrooms 2026. I want to hear from you guys down below in the comment section. What did you think of this movie? And also, what is your favorite A24 movie, if you have one? That would be an interesting conversation down below. But until then, guys, we'll catch you guys later, and stay safe out there. Bye-bye now.